Okay. So, in order to talk about the history of Rome, the first thing that we need to do is we need to go way back to the beginning. And we're going to go to the very beginning. In fact, we're going to go to the mythical beginning. Now, I know in language arts you've talked about myths. Um, what is a myth? It's a type of story, but what kind of story is it? Go ahead, Cosgrove.
It's a fiction story that has mortals and immortals in it, and yeah.
Mortals and immortals sometimes, not always, but you are right. It's usually a story that is either rooted in partial truth or it's completely fiction. Good. Bonarisa, anything to add?
It also teaches, like, it usually has a natural phenomenon explained, and it explains something, or it has some sort of moral.
Right. There's going to be some phenomenon or some event explained, or it's going to have a moral, something to teach you something, right? This one is going to be explaining an event, right? Sometimes it can be both. But for the most part, that is, I think, a great definition of what a myth is. So Rome has its own creation myth. Now, you've got two founders of Rome, and they're twin brothers, Romulus and Remus. Now, the legend says that as babies, they were raised by a female wolf. According to the story, what happened was is that their mother had to give them away because their uncle wanted to kill them. It's a long story, but it basically centers around the idea that the uncle was like the leader and the babies were a threat to him. So mom gives them away. She doesn't want to, but she does. And they're raised by a wolf for the first few years of their life. They're eventually rescued by a farmer and then like raised as humans again because they'd kind of turned into wild beasts because they were living with a wolf. Now, eventually, they become very educated and they decide that they want to settle a city. And they decide that they're going to settle it at a base of some hills by the Tiber River. Bungert, what's up?
That I heard at like a thing. When the mother didn't want them, what I heard is she put them on like a river in like a basket and they went down.
Right. She put him in a basket in the Tiber River, which, if you know the story of Moses from the Hebrew Bible or the Old Testament, that's a very, very similar story. And it's weird that there's that overlap, right? They're so similar. But you're right. Yeah, she put them down the Tiber River. Now, eventually, Romulus and Remus are going to found this city. And all of a sudden, they come into a problem. They find a place. They originally fight over where it's going to be. They agree on it. Then they build the city. But there's a problem. What are they going to fight over? What do you think? They're twins. They both build it together. What's going to be the problem? Hashim, go ahead.
The problem is who's gonna be like the leader.
Who's going to be in charge? You're absolutely right. Who's going to be in charge? We have no idea. So they fight. Romulus kills Remus. And in the end, they end up naming the city after him. Rome, Romulus, right? You can see that connection. Now, it's interesting because if you know anything about Harry Potter, Remus Lupin is a character in that story. And does anybody know what he is in that story? Arshia.
He's a professor.
A professor, and then also what? Once a month at a full moon.
A wolf.
A werewolf, right? Interesting. I wonder if there's any relation to this creation myth and Remus Lupin. I bet there is, considering lup is dog in Latin. Okay, this is review from last week. The geographical advantages. What about the land makes Rome a perfect spot? Well, the Tiber River is going to flow from these mountains in central Italy through Rome out into the sea. Anybody recall, for a torch ticket, the name of these mountains that goes through the middle of Italy, and it's like the backbone? It starts with an A. Wow. Go ahead, Bungert.
Appalachians.
Oh, it's so close. That's what everybody wants to say. That's the mountain range in the eastern United States, and it actually does start with that APP, but it's spelt or pronounced differently. Bonarisa.
Is it the Swiss Alps?
Nope, the Alps are actually to the north. These are known as the Apennines, the Apennines. So those Appalachians, Tyler, I'm going to give you a torch ticket for that one. That's close. These Apennines are going to be those shallow mountains that go through the middle of Italy. They're not going to be impassable, but they provide great defense for Rome. And they're built on these hills. I always forget, how many hills is Rome built on again? How many? Twain?
7.
Yeah, it's built on 7 hills, right? That's the namesake for our school. Those 7 hills provided defense all the way around Rome, with the wall going in the spots between the hills. Okay, this is where copying the notes is going to be very important, right? This is a lot of text, but there aren't that many blank spaces. So hopefully we're able to follow along here. We will take a little while on this one, okay? The Etruscans. These are going to be the first people that are going to be in charge of Romans. Now, you might be able to see it on this map, but we also had a question about this last week. What were the names, or what was the name of the tribe of people that settled in the Rome area first? They settled on the Latium Plain, as a hint. Anya?
Latins.
The Latins, good, right? So the Etruscans and Latins are different people. They have different cultures and they have different languages that they speak. The Etruscans come from this place up here called Etruria, and people think that they may have come from Asia Minor, which is all the way out to the east, right? But they don't know for sure. But what they do know is that they were the dominant power in Italy when Rome first started. And as you can see, we go from the Alps all the way down here to where Greek influence starts, okay? So the Romans are going to be controlled, or they're going to be, yeah, controlled is probably a good word. They're going to be governed by the Etruscans, okay? Now, the first 7 kings of Rome were Etruscans. In fact, a lot of people believe that Romulus himself was an Etruscan. And the reason that the story was created about him being raised by a wolf, about him rising up after being sent down a river in a basket, and then in the end killing his own brother, was a way to say, look, I've been through a lot and I've earned what I've got. Don't mess with me. I took out my own brother, not above taking any of you out too. Now that sounds scary, but at the same time makes sense, because even though the Romans were not a huge fan of the Etruscans for the first 250 years or so, things went pretty dang good. Then there was a problem. And the problem was a person. His name was Tarquinius Superbus, but I pronounce his name as Superbus because it's goofier and it's a lot easier to remember. So from now on, this Tarquinius Superbus will henceforth be known as Superbus. Superbus was a jerk. Plain and simple. He was a king that had complete control over the Romans, and he did whatever he wanted to do. And he didn't care what they thought of him because he was given complete authority. Why did it matter what other people thought? So for a few years, he did what he wanted to do, and the people of Rome were irritated, but they let it be. According to them, they didn't have another choice. Then he did something really, really, really bad. He attacked a daughter of a very well-known Roman family. And after he attacked her, she was so upset and so traumatized by it that she took her own life. And the Romans got really, really ticked off. And they flat out revolted against Superbus. They all fought because they were all irritated. They all fought together. They completely gathered him up, kicked him out of Rome. He was gone. He was the last Etruscan king. And they're like, you know what? We're done with the Etruscans. We've kicked them out. We're going to start governing ourselves because nothing can possibly be as bad as what that guy just did. Now, before we get into the aftermath, let's talk about some things from the Etruscans that the Romans did adopt that actually are really important things that they're going to keep, because there are some things that they get from them. Like, one is that they worship some of the same gods. They have similar religion, even though it's going to mostly come from the Greeks. There's still going to be some elements of Etruscan religion in there. They're going to both use the Greek alphabet, and then the Romans will create their own. And then they're also going to adopt this rockin' garment right here, the toga, which is a mainstay for this guy for Halloween parties. The toga is going to be like the number one thing that's worn in Rome for like the next 1300 years. So they adopt that from them too. But probably, even though it's not in this slide, one of the last things that I should highlight that they took from the Etruscans was their ability to build. If you go back, if you go back here, you can see the Etruscans started out here in the Alps, right? That means that they have access to a whole bunch of stone, and they became excellent builders. The Romans saw that, and they realized that was something that they wanted to adopt. The Romans are very good at something. When they see something that they like, they decide to steal the idea, put a little bit of a Roman twist on it, and then make it their own, okay? We're going to see that in so many things throughout this unit, but this is one of the first things, that and rockin' togas. So the next thing, they're going to form a republic. Now, I want you to tell me what this sounds like from a previous unit. In a republic, the people have the right to vote for things. And in that, their hope is that their vote will cause laws to be made and things to be done that will benefit them. Athens had something like this, but it wasn't called a republic. What was it called? This is an idea that they stole and put their own twist on it. Salma.
Democracy?
Right. It was their democracy. And the idea is that in this democracy, you were going to vote on things, and then based on your direct vote, that would be what would be put into law. For example, there's a law proposed that we will have vanilla ice cream every Thursday in social studies. Everybody votes. If there are more votes for yes than no, democratically, we will have that vanilla ice cream every Thursday. Now, in a republic, you don't vote on the laws themselves, you vote for the people. So you will vote for a representative who will then go to the Capitol and then argue for what you want in the hope that they can get you what you want. Now, we do that in Minnesota. We send people like Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith down to Washington, and then they debate with our national government about what laws are going to benefit the people of Minnesota, right? That's a republic. That REP, that's short for representative. You vote for someone and they vote for you. The United States is a democratic republic. There are some things that we vote directly for, and then there are other things where we vote people into government so then they can vote for us. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would we want somebody to vote for us when we're fully capable? Ladies and gentlemen, I can't even tell you how many times you would have to be voting if there wasn't a representative getting it done for you. It would literally be like a full-time job. And unfortunately, society's evolved way past that. We need to do more than just vote on stuff. Now, the Republic is incredibly successful because they had this brilliant idea that once they start going out to different places, they want to bring people into the Roman Republic. They want to have as many people as they can to strengthen the power of Rome. And they're going to turn them into citizens and give them voting rights. And because people think that's such an awesome idea that they want to be a part of it, in a lot of cases, they can expand without even having to fight at all. Now, in 264 BCE, this is 250 years after Superbus, they control all of Italy, all of it. So you go from this tiny little city, whoa, okay, so you go from this tiny little city right in the middle of Italy to controlling the entire peninsula in less than 250 years. Eventually, and we're going to talk about this on Wednesday, because of this, they're going to come into conflict with another power that had been there for a few hundred years, and that's going to start this huge rivalry, and eventually these three things called the Punic Wars that'll have Rome maybe become the most dominant power in all the Mediterranean Sea. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. Okay, So what are some positions inside this republic? First, there are senators. Now, you could argue that they are the most important people in the republic, these senators. There's 300 of them. And once they're there for life. And they're like advisors. They're going to be the ones that are going to come up with all the ideas that people are going to have to put into law. Now, they are usually older people. They have always served in an office beforehand, and they don't get elected. They are people that are put there after they've been in charge for a while. And the thing is that they're going to have this based off of 2 specific classes of people that are in Rome. I saw a hand go up. Paige, you have a question?
No, it was just on accident.
Oh, okay. No, it's totally cool. Totally cool. All right. So we have 2 classes of people. We have patricians and we have plebeians. Now, if you know Latin, or at least a little bit of it, pater means father. So it's almost like this is supposed to be the class that is the father or lords over the other class. And these are going to be the people that were linked to the original founders of Rome. It's about 5 to 10% of people. Usually very wealthy people, always powerful. They're the ones that get to make the decisions. And who they make the decisions over, these people are known as plebeians, also referred to as plebs. These are common people. Some are middle class, some are actually quite wealthy, and some don't make any money at all. But these common people, they are going to never have rights that these patricians have. They are born into this class. They can never get out of it. Now, as we're going to see, there are going to be some issues, because to have one class that's so small have control over what happens to all these other people, these large groups of people are going to get very upset. And as you're going to see in your reading tomorrow, they come up with some strategies for when they think these patricians are out of line. But these senators are always going to be these patricians. Later on, plebeians could be in it, but during the early years of the Republic, you could only be a patrician to be in the Senate. Okay, so we have 2 consuls. Now, these consuls are going to take the place of the king, right? We got rid of Superbus, but we still need people calling the shots. So we're going to have 2 people instead of 1. Why would you do that? They took this idea from the Spartans. Why would you have 2 people in charge instead of just 1? What do you think? Olivia!
So they could have 2 different people's point of views.
I absolutely love that answer, and you're totally right. That is definitely a reason. You have 2 different viewpoints, and as we're going to see, they need both of those viewpoints to agree, or nothing will get done. That's excellent. Very good. What do you think, Ellie?
I was also gonna say 2 different viewpoints, but also just like if one gets sick or something like that.
Right. So you also have a contingency or a continue plan, right? If something happened to one of them, the other one could at least take charge until the problem is fixed. You're absolutely right. Now, these consuls are going to be elected for 1 year only, for 1 year. And that's the same idea, right? If there's maybe an issue where somebody dies, or if there's somebody who goes cuckoo and starts making bad decisions, they're going to be out of there in just a year's time. Now, when these 2 consuls come together to make decisions, they have what's called veto power over the other one. Essentially, the other one, if they disagree with what one wants to do, nothing gets done. Nothing at all. So those 2 viewpoints have to find what's called a compromise to figure out if what they're doing is actually right for the people. Now, this is an incredibly awesome idea. The problem is that eventually people are going to corrupt these consuls and give them money under the table to do what they want them to do, right? So it's a great idea, and for a long time it works out very well, But over time, there are going to be people that have a lot of moolah that are able to corrupt these Roman consuls. But it's an excellent idea. And it definitely takes away from the idea of a guy like Superbus who just does whatever the heck he wants to do whenever he wants to do it and doesn't answer to anybody. He answers to the people and he answers to the Senate because they are elected. They are directly elected democratically to their position. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, there is this one last slide here. We will get to that on Wednesday. We will go through that. And because of that, I have since made the fourth problem in your exit ticket. I have made that optional, okay? Because it is not fair to expect you to do that for us not having gotten through it. If you want to try it, you are more than welcome to do so. But it would be a little bit difficult because we didn't get to this last slide, okay? So that being said, your exit ticket is 3 questions, perhaps 4. I will stick around for a couple minutes here before I make my lunch. If you have any questions, I will love to answer them. Otherwise, we have officially gotten to the end of our class period, so I must let you go, ladies and gentlemen. Have yourselves a great day, and I am here to answer questions for you.
Goodbye.
Go ahead, Arshia.
I need to take notes on slide 1.
Sounds good. I am going to cut the recording here.
Okay.